What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the After Credits Scene. We are breaking down the first episode of Moon Knight. We're here to talk characters, we're here to talk villains, we're here to talk story, and help you get through all the weirdness that's going on with this show. First off, I really have no idea where they're headed with this show, and two, there's going to be a lot of craziness going on that we're going to have to break down and go through as the show progresses. So let's not waste any time, but let's get right into it. The characters and the writing and the overall world building that they created in the first episode was really phenomenal. I went into this wondering where it was going to rate in comparison to the first episodes of the other series. Something like WandaVision took a couple of episodes to get going because there was a lot of mystery enshrouding it. Same thing with this, except this world, much like Westview in WandaVision, really pulled you into the world building a little bit, but there was a lot kept secret in WandaVision that made it a little too mysterious. You didn't know what was going on, it didn't quite fit, it didn't bring you into the story at all. Something like Falcon and the Winter Soldier had a lot of action right up front that had a little bit to do with what happened at the end of the show, but not really a ton. This gave a lot of world building, it gave a lot of character development, and a lot of the reviews that talked about this being kind of a character study in the vein of Iron Man, I think we're really spot on. There was a whole lot of stuff that gave you the indication that you were learning about these characters, even though in the course of you learning about these characters, you're realizing, I don't know anything about this guy. And it was interesting to me to see which point of view they were going to go with. And so I like the idea of them starting off with this Stephen Grant character, and I thought Oscar Isaac did an amazing job of bringing that character to life, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do with the other characters. And when you finally get to see a little bit of Mark Spector at the end of the episode there, the difference between the two characters, not just the accent, but the confidence, the way he carries himself, all those different things. I thought Oscar Isaac knocked it out of the park with that, and all the other reviews from every indication that I've seen say that he's what makes this show. And I think for a character that has multiple personalities or dissociative identity disorder, depending on I guess which version of the DSM-5 you go by, to pull a little psychological terminology on you there, is really going to let you know where they're going to go with this when it comes to the schizophrenia that he's dealing with. That was really an amazing part of the story, was his acting. Couple that with the way they wrote it and cut it and directed it. I think from a production standpoint, this series is going to have a lot of weight to it when it comes to those different aspects. And so watching those things and figuring out whose perspective you're looking at it from, and who's in charge, and who's in control of Steven's mind, whether it's Mark or this Khonshu character, they did a lot of dropping hints in that regard, and I'm really curious to see where they go with that, and I'm sure as the episodes progress, you'll get to see a lot more of that. Getting directly into the episode from start to finish, they called this one the Goldfish Problem. Now, they give you a little bit of a hint of it from the goldfish itself. It starts off with one fin, and he goes back to the store and says, well, it has two fins, what's this about? And the shop owner says, well, you visited here before, so did one of the characters replace the goldfish like a parent would if you accidentally killed your child's goldfish? Maybe, I'm not quite sure. The thing that I thought about was that the one stereotypical thing you learn about a goldfish is that they have a 6-second memory, and that from one time to another they don't remember what happened before, and that happens a lot in this episode. You get a lot of time jumps, a lot of lost time in the form of things that Stephen blacks out, and then he wakes back up and something else has happened. The one action sequence we got of Stephen waking up in this village, presumably in the Alps, and running away. was the one time where you got to see a little bit of what was going on. And then right there at the end, when you actually get to see a little bit of the reveal of Moon Knight himself and Mark Spector. And so the thing that was interesting to me about that is when they started playing with those time jumps, and then you got past that and they started showing Stephen kind of losing his grip on reality and losing his mind a little bit. There was a lot of play with reflections, not just in water and seeing two different worlds reflected or on top of each other, but Stephen looking in the mirror. And the question I asked myself in my notes, I always take notes with this to make sure I can, pick up every little Easter egg and all these different things in the movies, was when he's looking in the mirror, there are three different reflections. And so are there three different personalities of this guy? Is it Stephen Grant, Khonshu, and Mark Spector? Or are there four? Does it include the person that's looking into the mirror, and there are three different versions that he's looking at? Or are those three different versions staring back at the one person? And there's all kinds of references from movies that you could pull from there. The two movies I immediately thought of were the movie Split with James McAvoy, where he has different personalities warring inside his mind, and the idea that one of those personalities is only in the light at any given time, but there's a few characters that have control of the light being the personality that is in front of you at that time. And so you get a little bit of that idea when Mark is talking to Stephen in the bathroom at the end, and he says, "I need control. You got to give me control." And so that was the movie I thought of immediately, the idea there. And then also Inception. Again, as Mark is losing his mind towards the end of the episode, he runs to the elevator, and he lives on the 5th floor, but he's going down to the 3rd floor. And when he gets to one of those floors, that's where he encounters another one of his personalities. And so he's trying to get to the ground floor. He's trying to, the different layers of his personality. So how many are there? We'll dive into some of that in some Easter egg videos. And you can certainly go look at the comics and pick up on all those different things. And right now we're getting it from Stephen's perspective, and we're seeing him discovering these other personalities. Just from an episode standpoint, a character standpoint, we start off with a view of the villain, Ethan Hawke. For the little bit of time that you see him, did a fantastic job. The difference between him and a guy like Stephen Grant, I actually thought there were a lot of similarities between the two of them. It's just a matter of what they did with it. And I think this balance of power, so to speak, this dichotomy between the two of them, but how they are two sides of the same coin, so to speak, in the form of villain and alter ego, in terms of the different personalities and the two sides of the same coin in regard to Mark and Stephen. They're going to play off of all those things, and it's going to be really, really cool to see how they do it. And when you lose time, what you come back to and what you see and what you don't see, and what our minds as the viewers are going to have to fill in, is going to be really exciting to see the possibilities of what they could do with this show. Now, in that regard, they could do it very, very well, or they could do it really, really poorly. It remains to be seen. But getting back to those two guys at the beginning of the film, you get Ethan Hawke's character. You get this prophet Harrow talking about, not just talking actually. You get this prophet Harrow, and you see him preparing his day. I thought it was very, very interesting as you're watching that at the beginning, and you hear the music, that the music gets suffocated, muted whenever he puts the glass down on the table, almost as though your perspective is from inside the glass, or that he is somehow encapsulating. It was just very, very interesting. I don't know if they did it just to play on your senses, or if they did it from a purely perspective standpoint to kind of give you a sense of who he was, or if there's something inside him as well. the cult-like characteristics of him breaking the glass very methodically, the disciplined nature of his character, and then putting that glass in his shoes and walking on broken glass was a very, as far as a religious overtone, religious imagery, it had a lot of punishment, humility, submissiveness characteristics to it. There is a very deep or a very separate part of certain practices in Catholicism even that believe in harming yourself, whipping yourself, and things like that, punishing yourself for your sins physically, not just in a metaphorical or guilt sense mentally. And so something like that is already being shown, this discipline and the way this guy is very devoted to what he does in that regard. Flip over to Stephen, who is also very methodical and disciplined in what he does in his room. You know, the sand, not only for the Egyptian metaphor and theme that they're going for, but just the idea of his bed being surrounded by sand so he can see if he got up in the middle of the night when he woke up. The bracelet around his leg to make sure that he stays in bed, and then all the different aspects, his Rubik's Cube. There's an Easter egg there. He goes to bed one night flipping the Rubik's Cube, but he's not solving the puzzle. But when he wakes up the first morning that you see him, the Rubik's Cube is kind of off in the corner and it's solved. And so there's an aspect of his character that's very, out of sorts and not put together. But there's a version of his character that is all put together, and every side reveals itself. And whenever that comes together, the whole episode kind of felt like that. You're getting different pieces and you're not seeing the whole picture, and right at the end you get a little bit of the whole picture. And obviously they'll expound upon that and do that episode to episode until you get the full picture at the end of the series. Those little details, right down to the tape on his door. If you've ever gone on a trip with a school, if you've ever gone on a youth group trip with a church, the tape on the door was a very telling sign of, we want to make sure you don't leave the room, because once the tape comes off and you open the door, close the door, you can't put the tape back on the door. And so him having that on the door and being able to know when he wakes up whether or not he moved in the middle of the night, in addition to all the different locks on the door, making it as difficult as possible to get out of his own room and cause damage to himself, to others, those kind of things. He's having to protect himself from himself. And so you didn't get a lot of ideas as to what exactly Stephen's going through in his own mind, except for the fact that when he starts losing his mind, it's not the same type of thing that has happened to him before, because he's very put off by the fact that when he wakes up, it's not Friday, it's Sunday. So something that happened there was more off-putting than what has normally happened to him. And I thought that was really interesting as well. So there's a deeper aspect to what's going on with him that even he's going to have to figure out. And so there's some mystery in his own life now that he's going to have to get to the bottom of and come to terms with. The life that he leads in one regard, as opposed to this life that apparently he's been leading for a while that he didn't know about, even with all of his different fail-safes and safeguards in place. How did he get out of the house without leaving marks in the sand? How did he, no pun intended, how did he get out of the house without flipping the tape? All those different things is going to be really exciting to kind of see that unraveled, so to speak. And there's a lot of really exciting things that happened in this episode that really set the stage for how the show is going to go, I think. And so just those different little pieces that could be very character driven by Oscar Isaac being just a phenomenal actor. It's also the way it's written and the way that it's shot that make it exciting like that. The little Egyptian references and the little things that Stephen knows that get thrown into what is going to be coming in a very real form. To Stephen, it's all mythology and it's all in the past and it's already happened and it's not something that's currently happening. but for this world that he is about to become a part of, where Egyptian mythological gods are real, like Khonshu and things like that. To me, had a very Thor feel to it. That like Jane Foster finding out that all the myths that they thought were myths are actually real. It had a lot of origin story aspects to it in that regard, and it's going to be fun to see how they unpack this new world that they're creating. But they did a really great job of pulling you into that world and giving you some pieces of that, in addition to giving you a lot of visual cues as to how they're going to explain the time jumps, how they're going to explain the different personalities, and I think they're going to have a whole lot of fun with that from a directing standpoint. One other thing that I thought was really interesting, and it's going to give you some mythology, we'll explore it a little more in our Easter egg video coming up. You can catch a link to that here and at the end of our video, is the idea that Stephen comes back to in the gift shop about the poster of the Ennead, the different gods, the different 9 different gods, the super gods in Egyptian culture. Think of them kind of like the main god, or the titans of Greek mythology that were greater than the gods themselves. That there's some kind of battle going on here. And the poster that Stephen refers to is missing 2 of the 7 gods, and I would be willing to bet that is Khonshu, and I would assume Amit, maybe somebody else. Haven't actually finished that video yet and done my deep dive into that research, and so I'm sure in the Easter egg video we'll get to that. But somebody more versed in Moon Knight comics can tell me a little bit more about that, share that in the comments, because I'm going into this blind. I decided not to do any research on Moon Knight and look into any of the comics because I kind of wanted to be surprised and go along for the ride. But rest assured, when we get into some Easter eggs, that'll be something that we talk about. Interested to see what you thought about the episode. I thought from the standpoint of other Marvel shows and its first installment, it was very exciting. There was not as much action as I thought there would be, but I have a feeling that that's going to come. And I think in more episodes, in subsequent episodes, the reveal of Moon Knight himself and the different things that happen, I think when he comes out, so to speak, when he comes out of Stephen's mind, Mark's mind, I think those reveals and those moments are going to make for an even more exciting fight sequence, and it's going to make for even greater moments. It'll be interesting to see if there's more time jumps, or if we go straight from the end of episode 1, time-wise, right into, time-wise, Moon Knight going and fighting that night, or if he wakes up again and we have to wait again to see another reveal of Moon Knight. So a lot of the stuff that we saw in the trailers came directly from episode 1, and more than I thought it would, and it flowed really well, actually. But there's a whole lot left to be seen, and rest assured, when episode 2 drops, we will have prediction videos coming up. We'll have more Easter egg videos, and a whole lot more discussion and comments about who is Moon Knight, who is Mark Spector, and what can you expect from the show, and just a breakdown of how exciting it's going to be. I'm really excited for the show, and it's good to have Disney content back on TV again, more Marvel content to sink our teeth into. So thanks for watching, guys. Tell us what you think in the comments. Tell us if you caught something that we didn't catch. And as always, check out our Easter egg video. Check out some of our other videos here. We got plenty of other things that you can watch over here to check out. But stay tuned for our Easter egg video. Stay tuned for our predictions for episode 2. And as always, when the next one drops, we'll catch you right back here. Later, guys.